happening, everybody? Yeah, Rick, grooving, man.
Yeah.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Drummers Education Connection. My name is Jeremy Steinkohler. I'm here with my good friend Rick Stojak from San Diego. What's up, everyone? We're hoping to be joined by Chip Ritter in just a couple of minutes, but we know Bart is on the road with the Sam Morrison Band, so we're missing him again this week, but he'll be back next week. And we are going to talk today. We'd love to hear your input. We're going to talk today about advice for your first gig. We're going to talk about how teachers can help their students prepare for their first gig. And we are going to help you if you're coming up on your first gig or your second gig or your third gig, or maybe even your 25th gig. We may have some nuggets of wisdom here to share with you that you can appreciate and make your life a little bit better. As always, we have our Patreon page. I don't have the address on that. Rick, if you can find it and put it up there, that's cool. Otherwise, just search us up, Drummers Education Connection there. We have our website, drummersedcon.com, and our YouTube page, and all of our live streams are archived on our YouTube page. If you're unfamiliar with the Drummers Education Connection, check us out on Facebook. We do a weekly video cast every Tuesday morning, 11 a.m. Pacific time. And we have guests on. We talk about different topics related to drumming and teaching and life. So before we jump into our actual topic, Rick, what's going on that's good for you? What's good things happening for you, buddy?
Man, let's see. My volume 4, How to Build a Drum Groove, Mastering Triplet-Based Beats, is getting closer and closer and closer. And I'm excited about the book. It's going to be a great resource for teachers. You're going to have a shuffle beat, and then you're going to have a list of all these songs that you shuffle. So you're going to be able to get your students drumming right away. And then you'll have like a 12/8 feel. And same thing, lists of songs, permutations on that feel, and then songs that use it from start to finish. So it's going to be a great way to learn to read and play right from the get-go. So I'm been putting my heart and soul into it. And so
man, I cannot wait for that to come out, because I do that. I teach those grooves all the time, and I have my playlist. That's kind of a limited playlist, and I can't wait to check out all your stuff and apply your grooves and your permutations to those different songs. That's what it's all about, man.
That's it. Anything triplet based is going to be in there. So I'll have like a swing pattern with backbeat. And what's so amazing is that you'll have one drum beat, the same drum beat, and it's used in a song. And then you'll have that same beat used in a song by a completely different artist, completely different. Like you wouldn't think that they're even coming from the same planet,
right?
But they use the same drum beat.
Right.
Yep. And so it just teaches you to kind of learn everything you can. And it's unexpected how you might be able to apply a beat. So don't think, oh, I'm not into blues, so I'm not going to play. But if you just took that and put that pattern and moved the right hand from the hat to the floor, well, now it sort of sounds like an alternative rock or independent indie rock kind of thing, but it's just the same thing that was rooted in blues.
Yep, exactly.
So it's always exciting. There's Chip. Hey, Chip.
Sorry, everybody. Sorry about that, guys.
No problem.
Great to see you, man.
What's going on? How's everybody doing?
We're doing good, thanks.
Yeah.
We were just talking about good things. Rick's telling us all about his book that's nearing completion, triplet-based.
Right on. Don't let me interrupt, Rick.
No, he was just wrapping up on that part, I think.
Yeah, Chip. So you are just in time for your good thing, man. Your timing is great, being the great drummer you are. Yeah.
My good thing. Well, I started walking today with a partner who's exercising with me. Nice. And we're going to be doing it 3 days a week, and I'm going to lose some weight and get healthier.
Oh, good for you, man.
I saw your post, the great Carl Cherry, right? The drummer Carl Cherry, right?
Carl Cherry, yes,
yeah.
Sir.
Yeah, that's cool. He's a good guy. Good drummer.
Yeah, it's going to be good. We're doing all right. What about you, Jeremy?
Things are good. Let's see. We're getting a little crunchy here with college applications. Sort of the next 6 weeks is what it's, crunch time for getting that all together. And Evan's going to be recording a video of him playing a whole bunch of jazz tunes, and I'm going to play with him for his audition pre-screen videos. So that's kind of cool. He's got a ringer in the house that he can make it sound good.
Is he going to pay you?
No, he's not going to pay.
Make him pay. Go, come on, man. You better get used to being a musician.
Yeah, right. So I'm going to give him money to pay me. Is that it?
Yeah, right.
And then, let's see what else. I applied for a California Arts Council grant. Very excited about that. Crossing my fingers that comes through. And a bunch of gigs this week and rehearsals and a lot of projects coming up. A couple of recording sessions coming up next month. I'm very excited about, or November, I should say. What are you going to say?
I'd love to hear more about the California Arts Council grant. That's interesting.
This is a program that is funded by the state of California for emerging, established, and legacy artists all through the state. And they have different zones of California. Based on where you live, you can apply if you meet the criteria. And they give out different grant levels for different levels of established, careers, let's say. And it's all across all media. So it's not just music. There's, dance and art, visual arts and writing. Wow. But we'll see.
Wow. Thank you to the people involved with putting that on and supporting that. That's so refreshing to hear. It's just what we need, man. Helping our culture and arts. Everything else will follow 100%. From there if we get that together. So cool, man.
Yeah, I'll tell you guys more about it if it comes around.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk today about your first gig, and this could be your first gig for you, the listener, or it could be your student's first gig. And we're going to talk about tips for succeeding, tips for success on your first gig. It's pretty scary, I think, the first time. I've had a lot of students go through this experience, and the first gigs range from a party in a backyard to a house concert in a living room to a gig at the local dance bar, or whatever, a dance club or a bar, with music, to their first band work show. So they're in a class format, and it's the concert at the end of the 8-week session. Public gigs on the porch of people's houses, or at local venues, or a festival even. The whole range of stuff. And one of the things I stress for them was a bunch of things. Number one, of course, is to have all their gear together and to be on time, right? Those are sort of the obvious ones that we all know we need to take care of.
Yeah.
But what I talked to them quite a bit about the sound check and what that's about and how to handle it, because a lot of people for the first time, they have no idea what a sound check is. They've never even done one.
Mm-hmm.
And they get on stage and the sound person asks for, give me the kick drum. And like, what do you mean, give me the kick drum? They don't know what to do with that. And
let's do sound check. Let's do one.
All right. Let's hear
you be the engineer. I'll be the drummer.
All right. Give me some kick, Rick.
That's it. That's all you want to do is a regular quarter note. They're just
quarter note, right? I'm not doing a bass drum solo, lots of notes. I'm just letting them hear the note without hitting all of the other stuff.
Yeah. And then,
keep hitting it until they say done.
Right.
And how does it sound?
They'll ask for each part of the kit like that. They'll give you snare, give me tom, rack tom, one, floor tom, etc. Right. And then they say play the whole kit, and then you do kind of some stuff. And you generally want to play when you're doing your full kit sound check in the style that you're going to play in with the band. You don't want to, if you're playing in a country band, you don't want to do a whole avant-garde jazz thing or a heavy metal thing, because that's not the way they're wanting to mix the sound of what you're doing. Pretty obvious. Yes. So and then so that's just getting the sound of the drums. That's not even for you. That's just for the sound person and the house mix. And then they might go through those steps with the bass player and the guitar player and the keyboard player and the vocalist. And then when they've got all the sounds, and they've EQ'd them a little bit, they may say, all right, let's hear the whole band play something. Mm-hmm. And you're going to defer to the band leaders to what song to play. And you might end up wanting to play snippets of a handful of different songs that feature different instruments. On this one, we have an extra saxophone that isn't on the other one. So let's make sure we sound check with the saxophone too. On this one, we have a violin, whatever. On this one, I'm playing conga drums. Oh, let's make sure we get the congas in the mix. And during that sound check, that's a critical opportunity for you to make sure that you can look around at each person in the band and hear what they're playing. And you often, especially if it's a reasonable sized venue, will get a dedicated mix that is just yours. So you're going to have a speaker on the floor, it's called a monitor, that's pointing up at you, a little wedge speaker on the floor. And that's what you're hearing. And remember, what you hear is not the same as what the audience hears.
Yeah.
It's a completely different mix.
Yes.
And all you're trying to do is make it so that you can hear what you need to hear to play drums comfortably, play drums well. So if you can't hear the singer and the singer is important for you to hear, you need to ask for that. So you need to be very assertive and advocate for what you need. The sound person is trying to give you what you need, but they don't know how to do it unless you ask for it. And it's okay to ask for more and then say, no, that's a little bit too much. I need a little bit less. Don't be afraid of asserting yourself and asking for what you need, making changes. You know, you might do your whole sound check and decide, you know what, the bass is actually still a little too loud. Say so. The sound person is just trying to make you happy so that you can play drums comfortably. So that's the sound check.
Yeah.
And
you need to be so friendly and nice to that sound person. You want to make that person is part of your band, and you just really have to show them appreciation, because they and there's always a time crunch too. They're under a lot of stress because they're having every band member all at once trying to say, oh, I want this in my monitor, that in my monitor. They're like, wait, I can only do one thing at a time. It's like a waiter waiting on 20 tables at one time.
Right. Good. I like that. Not good analogy. I always ask the sound person's name so I can address them by their name instead of, hey, sound person.
Yes.
I seem to like that.
That's a good idea. Yes.
Chip, any other tips regarding sound check?
No, when it comes to sound check, you definitely have to advocate for yourself and speak up and let it be known what you need. But at the same time, being polite and courteous is very important. You know, it's just like being polite at the drive-thru at McDonald's. You want to be nice, because what you get back, they're in control of what comes back. They're in control of your sound. They could ruin your entire band's show if they got mad at you. You want to be nice to them.
Yeah. Oh, you know, I have a very interesting thing is the origin of how this bass drum became referred to as a kick. And from what I understand, it was when we started getting amplified music and the sound person would ask for bass, and everyone would get confused. Did they want bass drum or did they want to hear bass guitar? So sound people started calling the bass drum the kick drum, as in kick and snare.
Nice.
So that's how we got that name. Both names are valid, but you're never going to hear a sound person say play bass, because then somebody's going to hit a kick drum and a bass player is going to play at the same time.
That's interesting.
And by the way, sound people always call toms rack because they're mounted on a rack. So when they say rack, everyone know that they want that tom.
That's rack one. Rack two.
One. Rack two. I don't have a rack two.
Okay, so floor tom.
Floor.
Right.
Yeah, floor. Yeah. And then maybe floor two.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Important stuff to know.
And if you're going to play, if you're playing a gig that requires a lot of different volumes, you know, like you're playing one tune on brushes, you want to make sure you sound check with the brushes also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello to Josh Posey and Fred Fisher. Thank you for watching, you guys.
So, you know, one of the other things that I talk about with my students who are going into these gigs, these early gigs in their drumming careers, is I remind them that it's really easy to get caught up in mistakes. It's easy to get caught up in mistakes that you've made, and it's easy to get caught up in worrying about mistakes that you may yet make. And in either case, what that ends up doing is distracting you from being in the moment. It ends up distracting you from playing your best, from listening. And usually what it ends up doing is causes you to play more mistakes.
Yeah.
Right. So this is sort of like a little bit of a philosophical thing, but it's really important to practice and prepare well, obviously. But then when you get to the point when you're on stage, you're going to be nervous, especially if it's your first gig and you haven't done this. I guarantee you're going to be nervous. The adrenaline is going to be pumping.
Yeah.
And, that can lead to all kinds of things. It can lead to faster tempos than you're used to, or rushing. It can lead to mistakes that you've never made in rehearsal that all of a sudden happen on stage.
Yeah.
And, it's really, really easy to get distracted by worry and anxiety about making mistakes, or about what people are thinking, or about being judged. Like, oh, there's that other drummer I know in the audience, he's really good, or my drum teacher's in the audience, or that person that I want to impress in some regard. And all those things just serve to distract you from the task at hand, which is being focused and present on playing your best and listening to the music. Yep. And the other piece of the puzzle is that, I think it's really, those kinds of things can end up distracting. You can end up not having a good gig because you're so in your head worried about the things that have already happened or that are going to happen. Yep. And, I've had this experience with some students, and even myself when I was younger, where I would ask them, how did the gig go? And the first thing they talk about is the mistakes that they made. And I'm like, yeah, but how did the gig go? Right. And they don't even know. They can't even, because they were so wrapped up with execution or whatever, that they didn't even experience. They weren't present in experiencing, the gig, in terms of the energy, in terms of the audience enthusiasm, in terms of the tightness of the band. They couldn't even speak to it because they weren't even aware of it. They weren't even paying attention. It's like they had blinders on.
Yes.
They were stuck in their own heads thinking about what they were doing.
Yes.
And, you practice, you put all that time into practicing on your own, getting your skills together. You put all that time in rehearsing with your band. And then finally you get on the stage. Like, you really want to try to enjoy that part of the process, even though it's nerve-wracking, even though your adrenaline's pumping, even though there's more at stake and you're more vulnerable or whatever. That's what you do it for.
Right.
That juice, that excitement, that engagement with people that you get from playing on stage. And, if you're not careful, you can actually not even enjoy it. You cannot even really get to experience it because you're so worried about stuff. So
yes,
I always remember, I always remind my students to try to enjoy being there. And, that can, take some deep breaths. We talked about stage fright in a past episode. If you haven't checked that out, that's really, really good episode. I think was that with Ted Morton, that episode?
Yeah,
we did?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, so that's what I got to say right now, but we'll keep going. What do you guys have?
Well, I think that if you are well prepared and you really, really practice, there's a certain amount of muscle memory and you have it. And then the thing that gets in the way is kind of like overthinking it and worrying about it. And one of the tools I've used is just to, of course, that visualization thing where you visualize a gig going well, and then it likely will happen. Like they've said, those people who played those tests where people were shooting baskets.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that's a very famous study where people shot 10 baskets and how, and how many did they get? And then others just visualized. And some of the people who visualized it actually, rather than practiced, actually got better, more slam dunks, more baskets. So I just kind of visualize the gig going really, really well. And then what I do is I always try to picture a person in the audience who's really getting into it and play for them. And that has worked so many times. Like, it's almost like I'm not worried about my parts because there's muscle memory. And I'm playing for that person, and that kind of calms things down. And then the muscles just start kicking in. So it's all relaxing and breathing. And we have muscle memory that we wouldn't believe. A lot of people can't remember their PIN number, their bank card PIN number. Like if I asked you what it was, you might not know what it was. But if you got in front of the ATM, your hands would just do, and that's what practice can be like. So if you kind of keep that in mind, like, hey, I got this, then it helps.
You know, another thing that can happen is that there can be sound issues beyond your control.
Right.
The guitar player's amp is too loud, or it's so boomy. When you do your sound check and then you start playing, and then one song later, the acoustics feel totally different, and you can barely hear anything. And you try to ask for stuff and whatever. Or there's shorts. There's a short in the guitar player's jack, and there's you're getting that buzzing sound all through the night, and they can't figure out what it is. And it's another easy thing, an easy pitfall to be like, oh, how was the gig? Oh man, the sound was terrible. Blah blah blah. I was tripping on the sound the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, there's only so many things you can control. And
right.
You really don't want to spend your time worrying about the things that you can't control. And you do your best to control the things that you can. Right. And that's what the sound check is for. And that's what having your gear together is for. Speaking of which, things in your control to be prepared for. I think we've talked about this in the past, but it's relevant now. Be prepared as far as equipment, right? So let's imagine you're bringing your own drum. Let's have two scenarios. One where you're bringing your kit, and another where you're playing a house kit that you've never seen before. Yeah. So if you're playing a house kit, Rick and Chip, what do you think? What are you bringing with you?
Chip,
if I'm playing a house kit, I'm probably going to bring my cymbals and my sticks and my throne to make sure that I feel comfortable with my seating and the cymbals and the sound that I use. And that's pretty much what I take. How about you, Rick?
I take all those, and I really emphasize taking a throne, because I've done backline a lot, and then I'm stuck on a throne that it's not adjustable height wise.
Right.
And that's been really, really tricky.
Yeah, the throne is big.
Yeah. And then I bring my pedal too. And sometimes a double pedal, sometimes a single pedal, depending on the gig, because sometimes, man, you have a pedal that's not your feel, it can mess you up. But the bottom line is we have to be able to play on anything, any kind of piece of junk, no matter what it is. I've had so many situations, especially tours in Europe, where they're like, oh, one of the other bands is bringing the backline. And you just don't know what you're going to get, and you just have to get it done. And no one in the audience or band gets it, that it might be more challenging. And you can't be making excuses to the band like, oh, I don't have enough time to set up right. You just got to kind of get it done. So I think sometimes practicing on a different set is a great idea. Like, get out of your comfort zone. Go to some band rehearsal studio and just try to do the set on the kit set up the way it is, even if it's awkward. So you kind of prepare yourself that way.
I agree with everything you guys have said. And I go sometimes one step further. So I'll bring my sticks and my cymbals and my snare. I'll usually bring my snare drum because, I'm using so much of the time. And you can sort of get away with a crappy kit, but if you have a really nice sounding snare and good sounding cymbals, the drum set's going to sound halfway decent. And the throne, likewise. I've many occasions been stuck on a throne that I couldn't adjust, and boy, that's a killer right off the bat. Like if I'm sitting too low, that's going to really hamper my ability to play well and comfortably. So big believer of that. I, in my stick bag, always carry a spare hi-hat clutch. As well as cymbal felts and washers. And I also carry with me, when I'm going to play on a house kit, either gels or snare weights. Those are the leather tabs that you can put on the drums that kind of function like gels. And I have found that, you can really help improve the sound of a crappy kit with a little bit of tuning and some dampening, depending on the scenario. There have been a number of occasions where I've been at a gig and it's a house kit and the bass drum is wide. It's a 22-inch bass drum. It's wide open. There's no stuffing in it. And it's just big and booming. The toms are tubby and really big sounding. And I'm playing with a singer-songwriter. This happened to me. I was on tour in Portland. And, I had to do my best to sort of I find a blanket or a pillow or a sweatshirt or my jacket to put inside the bass drum, or even to drape over the head of the bass drum.
Right.
There's always something you can do to improve the sound of the kit.
Yeah, I think sometimes I've seen people afraid to like tune a backline kit that's supplied.
Hmm.
And I think generally people are like, well, if you're using this drum kit, go ahead if you need to tighten the snare up a little bit. So don't worry too much about it.
This may be the kit that somebody else is playing after you, but you're playing it now.
Right.
So, any drummer that's gigging you should know how to tune your drums, and
Right.
that's a really important skill to learn before you go on stage, because you can get on that kit and it can sound terrible, but might sound a lot better with a little bit of tuning. If you don't know how to do it,
Yep,
you can be in trouble.
I always bring an Aquarian kick patch.
Oh yeah, good.
Which is like fixing a flat tire. It's basically a layer of film, drum head, like a single ply that just sticks onto a bass drum head if the bass drum head cracks. So that could save a gig.
Another piece of that puzzle is that for some people, like especially if you're a beginner and this is your first gig and you play on your drum set at home and it's a 5-piece kit and you're used to having a 5-piece kit, and then you get to the gig and it's a 4-piece kit. Right? You're missing that rack tom.
Yeah.
That can throw you off.
Yeah.
Or you brought your 2 crash cymbals because you're used to having both crashes available, and then you get to the gig and there's only one cymbal stand available for a crash cymbal.
Right.
So, you got to be adaptable, and you got to be able to work those fills around a 4-piece kit. Just, orchestrate them a little differently than you did around the 5. And if at all possible, it's always a good idea to ask ahead of time, what's the kit scenario at the venue? Who's bringing the kit? Can I connect with the drummer ahead of time and ask them how many pieces is the kit? What are the sizes? Is it okay if I tune them?
That goes along with being prepared. That's one thing you can do to help yourself be prepared for the situation.
Right. I don't know who this is, but excellent comment. The sound guy will appreciate your tuning that backline kit. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Fred, good comment, man. Because most of the time, those house kits, if they live at the venue, they don't get tuned for months at a time.
Yeah.
So always a good idea. And another reason to arrive early, so you have the time to check it out and tweak it. I used to play at Bandworks. Well, I played there too. There's a venue at Berkeley called the Ashkenaz, and they have a lot of world music and big dance hall. Great, really cool venue. And we used to have our Bandworks concerts there for years and years. And we'd have like 10, 12, 15 bands playing in on a Sunday. And we'd use the house kit, which was great because it meant we didn't have to bring one. They had a really nice Yamaha Oak custom kit. And most of the shows they were having there were reggae shows. And so they had these toms cranked super, super tight. Same with the snare. And they had all this duct tape with paper towels, folded underneath them and muting the drums. And so it's like, thunk, 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 right? You had that really almost timbali-like sound.
Yeah.
That's just not what we needed for our rock and roll shows. So before any of the kids got up there, I pulled the tape off, I tuned the drums down, and I tried to get them sounding the way they should for rock, because it's a great kit, but it wasn't. If I didn't do that, it would have been a disaster.
Yeah.
So be prepared.
It's always good to bring a regular backup snare head too.
Oh, good point. So okay, let's go to the next scenario where it's not the house kit. You're bringing your own kit.
Okay.
You know what you're bringing. You know what you're playing. Great.
Yep.
What besides the drum set itself and your cymbals, what do you guys bring? Like, do you have like a spare backup parts / emergency kit for when things break or what have you?
Oh man,
I usually don't have so much of an emergency kit. I usually keep some drum keys, extra drum keys, some Sky Gel dampener pads, you know what I mean, in case they fall off or whatever. But I usually don't bring too much of an emergency kit. What do you bring, Rick?
Everything under the sun. Wow. Man, I have this case. It's got duct tape, of course, the number one thing that all musicians must have. Duct tape saves everything. So I tape my pedals down to the floor too to give them that extra stability. Um, I have all kinds of tools, all kinds of Allen wrenches, um, aspirin,
Wow.
Pepto-Bismol, lots of water, um, Benadryl. I'm prepared, man. In fact, it was kind of a pain in the ass being that prepared because so often everybody on the road would not bring anything they need and go, "Oh, let's just ask Ricky, he's got it." You know. So, um, yeah, there's tape, there's different drum keys. Um, I've got a tape measure in there, all kinds of different felts. Um, I've saved some gigs by having all of that stuff, felts and T-tops. You know, where it's like, oh, I went to a gig and the stands were there and they were just there was no T-tops or felts at all. And if I didn't have extras, this whole festival wouldn't have even happened, or not the cymbals wouldn't have. They would have just have to go metal on metal. So,
Yeah.
yeah, at one point or another, I find like, man, I really, really need that stuff. And then backup headphones. I'll bring backup like a backup battery charger too. So, yeah, like a little charger, like a battery backup
like a phone battery kind
for
of
a
thing.
phone battery. Yeah, I'll bring that because I don't know if I'm playing along to tracks. So,
wow.
There's more. I should break it out, but I'm too wired up to pick or too wired in here with all my cables to show you all this stuff. But what it does is it brings a level of comfort that if something happens, don't make a face, just fix it up right away. Things will be cool.
You've got some peace of mind.
Yeah.
And I guess everyone's got a different degree. I mean, Rick, that sounds like awesome, and you're like super prepared, and that's good. Like, especially if that gives you peace of mind, you don't have to worry about anything. You just show up to the gig. There's nothing you won't have that you could need, right?
Yeah. I'm self-contained. Oh, and then clothes. That's the whole thing. Depending on the gig, I mean, a lot of gigs I've done, it's pretty aggressive music, and you're done. You're drenched. You're completely sweated out. So I'll have to bring shorts. Bring your underwear, people. Backup underwear.
Backup underwear.
Gotta have some backup underwear. And then a shirt to change into, a dry shirt to change into.
Elvin Jones was such a famous sweater, perspirer, that he would change his shirts and take a shower in between sets.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, that's impressive. I thought I was going to add some stuff, but I think whatever I have in my kit, Rick already has like double and triplicate in his. But
how about even a towel to clean your glasses?
Oh, yeah, I got one right here. I carry those.
Oh, there you go. Look at that. Why you had it right there?
Because my glasses get all whatever streaky all the time.
Yeah.
So I have those wet things and a rag.
Yeah.
But I have what else do I have that you didn't mention? Of course, earplugs, a Cliff Bar that saved my life several times.
Yeah.
I'm sure to replace it after I eat it.
Hairspray, depending on the genre.
That I don't have.
Oh wait, that was a bunch of decades ago. Sorry.
That's funny.
I don't need hairspray anymore.
Man, you guys could go camping.
Yeah, right. Most of the stuff that I have in my little kit, I've learned the hard way because I ended up on a gig where I didn't have it, and it messed me up. Like there was a gig I played, first song, ripped a hole in the snare drum with my stick, ripped right through it, and I think it was the only time it ever happened. And I had no snare drum the entire gig. There was nowhere to fix it, so I now have an extra snare drum in my car or my truck. It's always there. I have a pair of sticks. I have my stick bag, and then I also have a couple of pairs of sticks in my car, and I have a couple of pairs of sticks I leave in my cymbal bag in case I lose my stick bag, in case it gets lost. I've same with the drum keys. I've got drum keys everywhere. I got them cut them out of every pocket, out of every bag, and every place.
You know what? One thing I want to mention too is I have my little gig bag. It's like a backpack kind of thing, a smaller backpack. And with my keys, my phone, and my wallet, I don't leave that stuff backstage. I keep that important stuff right by my side the whole time. I want to be able to get up and go in an instant with my vital stuff.
Oh, another thing that I have that I learned the hard way to keep in my emergency kit is an extra tape or wire to affix the snares to the throw off. So if that breaks and your snares drop down and you can't reattach them, you got no snare drum, you got no snare sound for the rest of the gig. So gotta back up both a piece of tape and one of those steel cable wires that you can use to adhere or to affix the snares to the
cables. Yeah.
Oh man, the biggest one. I knew I was forgetting a big one. A flashlight.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I do have a little pen flashlight on my keychain that I can use. And boy, that's come in handy for sure. You know, you're on a stage and you drop something on the ground and it's dark and the lights aren't on yet on the stage, and it's an important, maybe it's a wing nut or maybe it's a drum key.
Yeah.
And boy, you need that. So flashlight's a great idea.
I have one of those. Trick Drums makes a drummer's flashlight that they sell, and it's got a magnet at the end of it where you can just stick it on the side of your drum throne and it'll stick. And you can position it onto any hardware and it'll just light up the area that you fix it on.
Oh, I want one of those.
Yeah, the drummer's flashlight. I'll send you a link to it.
All right. Yeah, put that in the chat.
Yes. Yeah. Chip, you could be Santa Claus this year.
Right on. Maybe maybe Santa will be nice to you guys.
Yeah.
You guys, we'd love to hear from you listeners what else you guys bring. That maybe we've missed some stuff or you thought of some things and some things that we don't.
Fred Fisher says a spare snare along with those smaller things. I keep a spray deodorant.
Never a bad idea.
That thing about Fred Fisher, he always smells great, man. That's what they say, man.
Fresh, clean grooves.
We got to get Fred Fisher on this show.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
What else, you guys? You guys, both you and Chip or anybody else who's listening, we'd love to hear things about your first.
I'd like to circle back real quick, not to change the subject again, but Josh Posey always said that I would always tell myself that mistakes are going to happen, just shrug it off and keep having fun. And I was going to say that when I get anxious and I'm worried about the situation and it's my first gig, I was told to keep focusing on my breath and breathing and listening to the band members. Focus on the rest of the band members and try to focus on that rather than any mistakes.
I was told that you're supposed to picture the audience naked.
Well, that's why you bring all of those clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, shoot, what I was going to say. Oh, I lost it.
No, Chip, that breathing and everything you were talking about is so vital, man. Calming ourselves
it's very
down.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So being prepared, going beyond and above, like Rick, with whether you have a camping case or you're just using extra keys, it's always good to be as prepared as you can for the situation.
I want to circle back to when you bring your own gear. If you are playing, if you don't have a tech, because nobody's going to have a tech if they're playing their first earlier gigs, you are the road person, you're the crew yourself, right? So you're moving your own drums. So arrive with your drums tuned up, muffled up, just the right way that you like them to sound, and don't get in the way of the next drummer. Move when you're done with your set. If there's somebody following you, move your kit off side stage or backstage and then break the stuff down. Don't be taking a cymbal off a stand and gently taking your time putting it into your cymbal case while the next band is trying to get on stage. So have a lot of courtesy that way. And I always like to help the other bands before and after moving their equipment on and off the stage.
Yeah, don't be afraid to be honest about it with somebody else and say, hey, I need some help. You know what I mean? It's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, people will be more than happy to give you a hand.
That's true.
You know what? That reminds me. So, especially if it's your first time, you know, I've had this story related to me by my students. They'll say, I sat down at the kit and I was so nervous, I forgot to adjust anything. I forgot to adjust the height of the snare. I forgot to adjust that I could adjust the height of the seat. I just figured I was stuck with what I got and I was uncomfortable. And so, you know, you have the time. And again, this is sort of coming back to advocating for yourself and making sure that you're comfortable, you can play your best. Take the time to adjust the snare height, adjust the angle of the toms, adjust the throne height, especially adjust the hi-hat, you know, whatever. I'll sometimes, if I'm going, you know, I'll sit down if I sit down at Rick's kit, I'm not going to be comfortable. I can almost guarantee it. So I'm going to make everything different and suit it for myself. And I'm going to say, hey man, I'm playing this gig, you know, and then when you come on, you can change it back to the way you want. But one thing you don't want to do is move microphones. Yes. Good call. So when the sound person sets those mics up and they get their sounds, that's based on a specific microphone placement, proximity to the drums and cymbals. And if you start moving those around, you're undoing the work that they did to get your drum sound. So make sure, you know, if you have to move something like that, like, yo, the microphone's right on the snare and your snare is too low and you need to raise the snare drum up, take a look at the position of the mic relative to the snare and adjust the microphone too. Or if you need to, ask the sound guy to come back up and do it for you. That's part of his job or her job. So make sure you're comfortable. Don't suffer.
A lot of what we're saying comes back down to be prepared. Be prepared.
I want to address something that I think is really, really vital, especially in the original music scenes. And that's to support the entire show. So many times I've seen people, they'll play in their band, their set, and then they leave, and then their friends leave, and then a third of the room is gone. And it's just everyone's there to see their friend's band or the band that they like. I feel it's really vital, and everybody wins by just supporting the entire show. Try to sit through all the bands, clap, let them know you like them, encourage them. Even if you don't love their music, man, just give them some good vibe, give them some good energy, and it's everyone's just going to elevate from doing that. So
nice.
And then what will happen is you'll end up making friends in other bands, and then they're gonna ask your band, hey, you guys are really cool to work with. You want to do this other gig with us that we were asked to do? We need another band. And
it's always good to be networking. Absolutely.
Always it. You're always networking. Always networking. Yep. And
I'd say this. Can I jump in?
Sure, man. Yeah.
It's really easy, especially for beginners, I think, but even more advanced players. It's just a personality thing, I think, to get wrapped up in praise or the opposite, or to get wrapped up in criticism.
Right.
And, you know, I know that when my students play a show that I go to see to support them, I can see that look in their eyes when they see me. How did I do? Right. And that I'm always supportive. I'm always supportive. And you know, if there's things to work on, which there inevitably are, we save those for the lesson, you know, and maybe we'll watch the video together, listen back, or I'll just give them my feedback. But even when I give them some critical feedback, I'm always starting off with some positive stuff and finishing with some positive stuff. Oh, we just lost Rick for a minute. It's really easy to feel like, oh, as a beginner, I don't know how the gig went. You tell me how it went. I will base my opinion of how the gig went on the feedback that I get from other people. Was I praised about my drumming, or did I get no feedback? Oh man, nobody said anything. That must mean I didn't play very well. Right?
Not necessarily, but
no, that's not how it works at all. Right. I'm just saying, imagining that mindset. And you know, it's if you sort of take a minute to assess how you did, you know, did you feel good? Duke Ellington said, if it feels good and it sounds good, it is good. So did you feel good while you were playing? Did you sound good while you were playing? Those are pretty good indicators that you played well and did a good job. It doesn't matter how many people say anything to you after the show. It doesn't matter if somebody says, anything. And it can be positive or negative. It's really easy to get wrapped up in what other people have to say. And you might not even know these people. Mm-hmm. I've had people come up to me and say everything positive, and even some things that are like, I don't know how to take that. I'm not even going to think.
Your ride cymbal sounds like a garbage can.
Listen, I had one guy say to me one time, I wouldn't take a crap on your drums.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, I'm delighted to hear that. It turned out it was because I was playing a Yamaha kit and he was all about American made. I'm like, dude, get away from me. Like, I don't want to hear about what your trip is. I've had people say, the one comment to me that is the most meaningful is when someone says that they thought my playing was inspiring. So to me, that's like I'm lifting up other people and I'm motivating them with what I'm doing and my dedication to my craft. And that's, to me, the highest compliment in a way. So much better than nice chops, man. Like, what am I going to do? That's me.
Yeah. One of the best compliments I ever got was from a bass player on a jazz gig. He said, man, you got really big ears.
Yeah, right. Another really
good was a cool compliment.
Right. Well,
when you're talking about your first gig, you said something about video, going back over the video. Some best advice I could give for somebody on their second gig preparing for it is to go over the video from the first gig, is to really pay attention to how that show came out, because it's going to give you that different perspective from the audience and let you dial in different things and give you notice to the things that you could change to make your show better.
Good point, Chip. Great point. And, you may play great, but look like you're a deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the video will reveal, oh boy, my playing was good, but I need to work on how I come across, my stage presence. Yeah. That matters, right?
Don't play the whole show looking over your shoulder past your hi-hat.
Right.
Yeah.
Or with your mouth hanging open like I do.
It's if you make a mistake, don't let the audience know that you made a mistake.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't make that face. Oops, don't make that face at all. And they're probably not going to notice that anything happened at all.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And that's the other thing about mistakes, which I forgot to mention earlier when we were talking about that, is 97% of the mistakes you make will be not perceived by 99% of the people.
Yeah.
Right. You will know, your band may know, maybe a couple people in the audience will know. But the other thing is, even when you do make a mistake, even if you totally drop the beat and like it's very obvious, people don't care. They're not there to sit there with a pen and paper and grade your performance based on how many mistakes you make. Like, oh, it was a really great show, but boy, the drummer dropped the beat that one time. It ruined everything. I had a miserable night. Like, it's not like that, right? People respond to the energy. When my students come back from going to shows, they go out to see concerts and they come back and say, oh my God, I saw this band. It was such an awesome show. First question I ask is why? What was so great about it? And invariably, I get almost the same answer almost all the time, which was, the band was really into it. They were really tight. They played really together, but they just seemed like they were loving what they were doing on stage.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
They never come back and say anything about mistakes.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with their perception of the show. So keep that in mind for yourself. You may make mistakes. It doesn't matter, right? Did you play with energy? Were you present? Those are the things.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it. Buddy Rich made mistakes. Neil Peart make mistakes. Every musician will make mistakes. It's how you handle them. Eric Clapton once said, when he made a mistake, he'd just make that mistake 3 more times, and people would go off.
Yeah,
like it was amazing.
Yeah, right. Famous story about Miles Davis and Herbie Hancock with that same scenario.
Yeah,
Herbie had played a bad chord and he made this awful face, and Miles said, "Play it again." Yeah. Oh, so we're getting close to running out of our time. Jim, if you got anything you want to add, man, throw us a comment. We'd love to hear advice for your first gig or your second
Jim
gig.
Royal said, "Great info. I will describe my go-to bag next time that I'm with you guys."
Yeah, look
All
forward.
right.
That could be a whole episode. What's in the bag? You know,
Yeah,
we're
what's in
going
your
to tell with
stick
our thick bags and yeah.
Don't forget your music if there's written down music.
Yeah,
That's a good one. That's a good
Right.
one.
Oh, and I always say too, don't be afraid to have some notes, man. If you need a basic, simple arrangement chart, or at least have your set list handy with like the beats or the tempo written down, you know, there's no one cares if they just want the job done, and if you have to use a chart, of course you don't want to have your head in a chart, looking distracted on the stage, but use what tools are available to you to get the job done,
Well,
and if somebody has a problem with it, well, that's their problem.
Jim Royal was just telling us last week about he went and saw James Taylor. Chad Wackerman was playing drums and he was reading.
Yeah.
So what?
So
what? You guarantee you he played his butt off.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that reminds me. If you're reading, you better bring a music stand.
Yeah.
You better bring a stand light.
Stand light.
Those clubs are dark.
Stand and a stand light. Absolutely.
Yeah. In my stick bag, I have in the pocket a music stand light that lives there.
Yes.
And if you need, if it's battery powered, make sure you got batteries and a backup. If it's what do you call it? Mine, I have a adapter plug, so you can always plug it in on stage. But another really good one, clothespins.
Yeah.
So in my stick bag, I've got clothespins. Why would I have clothespins in my stick bag?
To keep your pages from blowing off.
No, it's for my clothes because when I'm playing naked, I need them to air dry. Yeah, because when you're playing an outdoor gig, and if it's even a little bit windy, your pages might go flying. And even when they're bound in a loose, binder. I had a gig just 2 months ago. I've got all my charts in a binder, all alphabetized, and I put them in set order before the gig, and I open it up, and it's blowing all over the place. My binder is falling off my music stand. The pages are tearing out. I had to use all my clips to keep it on. And then between every song, unclip, turn the page, reclip, whatever. I was happy I could read my music. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, do you guys still use business cards? Because I
still do business cards.
Yeah, I still bring them. It's still like on a fly. It's just like, oh, here's my card, so you can follow up with people that you've played with.
Yeah, I have some, but I most of the time I'll just give them my number in their cell phone these days.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea to have it. The other thing that I always really work on is knowing how to get to the venue, knowing where the parking is, knowing where the load in is, estimating how much time it'll take to load in.
Right.
I've played some hotel gigs with DJs where you have to park at the loading dock, go through the whole kitchen area, go up 2 different elevators.
Yeah.
That stuff could take a lot of time. So make sure you've got a cart with wheels on it, and make sure you've got everything cased up too, so it can, so it doesn't get damaged.
Absolutely.
A drum rug.
Yeah, drum rug.
So make no assumptions that there will be a rug there available to you or that the stage will be carpeted. Often it is. Sometimes you're playing on tile or hardwood floor or whatever, and you don't want your drums slipping, you don't want them scratching up the floor, and you don't want your drums getting scratched up.
They got these great carpets at Walmart that are almost exactly perfect
gigs,
size for the drums.
Set up. Oh,
what's that?
Delay. We had a delay.
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rick.
Okay. When my dad first saw me playing some gigs, oh, look at those cases and the wheels. Jeremy's ready to go. You're ready to deploy.
He's ready to go.
Yeah, look at that. The Minutemen, man. You're ready to rock.
There it is. Ready to go.
Look at that lightweight. By the way, you have that lightweight Yamaha cymbal stand.
Yeah, that's just the extra one.
Yep.
Yamaha Crosstown hardware. Massive fan of that hardware.
So nice.
So when my dad first saw me gigging with bringing all the drum gear and all the setup time, he just said, "Why don't you just play harmonica?" He's joking.
That's why Rick always also brings his harmonica to the gig.
Yeah, exactly.
In case,
A lot easier.
in case he finds himself drumming by a campfire.
Yeah. Man, I remember back in the days, Barnyard Ballers used to do a lot of shows. These guys I played with were very punk rock, and just getting a set list together was a big issue, you know? I found that if I didn't write out the set list, then it wasn't going to get done. And, you know, we'd go on stage with no set list at times, you know. Eventually, I brought 4 sheets of paper, brought my tape, and brought magic markers so we could at least get a set list written in the dressing room before.
Yeah, have your set list ready before you go on stage. That's a great advice.
Yeah. We were very punk rock, though, man. We'd play practical jokes on each other, give each guy a different set list.
Nice.
Oh man! Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and thanks Chip and Rick for your great advice today. And also, all you guys who were with Fred and Jim and all your comments, we appreciate it as ever. We'll be back next week. Bart will be back with us, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.
We appreciate it, everyone.
Thanks, have a good day.
Take care. Thanks, everyone. You rock.